thank you for stopping by. I hope you find something calming and lovely in this episode. It's certainly my intention. I've been reading all of your comments and DMs and trying to think, okay, what could be the most comforting and helpful thing I could make for you this week with coronavirus. So here I am. I thought I'd change location rather than be in the kitchen upstairs. I thought I'd come down here. It's quite nice looking out to the garden, and I love this recipe. Let me bring the camera a bit closer because I feel like I'm a little bit dark, if I can see. Yeah, hang on, just one sec. Welcome back to Tuscany, where I am in lockdown in Italy, and I wanted to share with you a recipe that could really nourish the people that you love. If you are stuck at home and you're a little bit anxious about coronavirus, well, this is a soup that I prepare often, particularly during the winter months or the months where I'm at risk of catching a cold. Aside from that, I think it's also just emotionally quite comforting if you think of, well, you're all familiar with chicken soup for the soul. This is the type of meal that it feels like it's sort of hugging you from the inside. I feel as though soup often gets a bad rap. I mean, if you say we're having soup for dinner, nobody says, oh, amazing. Well, I do, but the reason for this is because it's sort of dismissed as just being an appetizer, and when it is just a monochromatic thing with, it's very smooth and it's got no texture. Of course, it's not very exciting, but that's not going to be the soup we're making today. No, I like to make my soup with all the vegetables there for your nutrients and the broth, because we really need to hydrate in this time. It's so important for your immunity. But then I like to add polpette. Oh, excuse me. I like to add polpette, which is meatballs in Italian. I like to do it with minced chicken or minced turkey. Pasta is optional. Perhaps you might want to add gluten-free pasta, or perhaps you might want to skip that altogether. But do keep in mind that the pasta leaks its starch into the broth, and therefore, instead of having this very watery kind of gruel type soup, you will have a slightly thicker broth. So yeah, that's something to think about. Also something to think about though, if you do want to use it the next day, then the pasta gets really soggy. So keep that in mind. Depends whether you're going to eat it all in one sitting. I generally, like during the months where I'm prone to getting the flu, I like to make a giant pot of it and kind of just keep adding to it throughout, like over a couple of days. I just add some more water and add a few more vegetables and keep extending it. So in that case, then I'll either eat all the pasta in the first sitting, or I will just skip adding the pasta altogether. So many vegetables in here so that you can fill your family or yourself, if you're just cooking alone, with nutrition, but also protein, which is important. And then the broth. I mean, it's really important for us to hydrate in this time. And lastly, the key ingredient here is the garlic, which I'm sure many of you are aware, well, all of you are aware probably, of the nutritional benefits of garlic. My sister, for those of you who don't know every detail of my story, my sister is a nutritionist and naturopath, and I was speaking to her because currently she's in Mallorca, and I feel quite worried about her because she's all alone. She's in lockdown in Spain and she's all alone, and has doesn't have any Wi-Fi, has limited phone data. So I'm hoping that this recipe could be something that will give you comfort and nutrition. And you might just think, well, Kylie, it's not a magical soup. What are you talking about? Let's be real here. It's not going to prevent one from getting sick. But you might as well do everything you can to boost your immunity, and that's all we can do, really. My sister Shannon sent me the following benefits about the ingredients of this soup. Onions are rich in quercetin, which is an antioxidant, which has been found to stimulate the immune system and show antiviral activity. Vegetables like kale and carrots are a rich source of minerals for hydration and vitamin C for immunity. Garlic boosts our immune cells, helping us to fight off disease. Garlic has immunomodulating effects by increasing macrophage activity, natural killer cells, and the production of T and B cells. Clinical trials have shown garlic to significantly reduce the number, duration, and severity of upper respiratory infections. The Linus Pauling Institute reports that heating garlic cloves whole or immediately after chopping or crushing can destroy the sensitive enzyme in garlic that is responsible for producing allicin. However, the health benefits can be partially conserved by crushing garlic and allowing it to stand for 10 minutes prior to cooking. That gives the enzyme time to be released and for allicin to form. The broth of the soup is a hydrating fluid, and the minerals from natural sea salt or Himalayan salt are also important for our health. I've made it a lot of times, and it's I've sort of put something on my Insta stories on Instagram, and a lot of you have said, oh, please share the recipe. And I sort of thought, oh gosh, I don't feel bad sharing the recipe because it's so simple. Yeah, I apologize in advance because it's so basic, but maybe there's a few little things that differ from how you make soup. For me, cooking has always been what I turn to when I feel hopeless, when I feel a sense of futility, when there are things in my life that are out of my control, be that my career or my love life or how the world is behaving, or as in this case, when there's a global health scare. I think there is not much good that can come from just sitting and fretting and being fearful in the kitchen. I think a lot of you will probably relate to this, so I hope that you might understand what I mean when I say that knowing I can put a few ingredients together in a pot and I can trust that I know what will come out as a result. It is like a type of magic, and I find a lot of serenity in that. Knowing that I put these ingredients together, I stir it around in the pot, and out of that comes something that is nourishing and good and reliable, and yeah, it gives me a lot of calm. While I may not be able to influence the outcome of anything else that's going on in the world or in my life, I know what the outcome will be from some of these recipes that I've done time and time again. They're like these old friends, and you just know that you can turn to them, and you know how they will make you feel. Like a good book or a good song, right? You know, a song that no matter how many times you play it always elicits the same emotion, and that's how I feel. That's how I feel about some recipes. If you've just come across my channel and you're not sure who I am, I'm not a professional, but I do cook. Gosh, I mean, I cook 3 to 5 times a day. I mean, I cook 3 meals a day, plus snacks, plus desserts, every day, whether I'm by myself or I'm with friends or I'm with a partner. I've always been this way. I've always cooked, and I show a lot of stuff on my Insta stories, but you guys have no idea how much I cook, really. It's like my family make fun of me because I always go, I never get to a point where I think, oh, I'm too tired to cook. I really, yeah, as I said, I guess it's my therapy. And after that whole diatribe about feeling in control, I must say I do have a lot of friends who they watch me cook and they say, gosh, I don't feel in control in the kitchen. On the contrary, I feel very clumsy. You know, when they chop vegetables, that they're flying all over the place, or they're accidentally, cutting themselves with a knife. There are little things you can do. Don't be chopping on like a plate or anything. Make sure you're chopping on a chopping board, and it's the biggest one you have, because, or make sure it's clear as well. You don't want to have lots of space. When you're cramped, you can't get that nice sort of chopping action, and then you end up cutting yourself. Sometimes I see these cooking, supermodels who suddenly do some recipe video on their YouTube channels, and they just like chopping in a way that I think, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm no professional, but there are ways to make your life easier. For example, I mean, most vegetables you'll see have round edges, right? Most vegetables, all vegetables, Kylie. When's the last time you saw a right angle on a vegetable? Anyway, so try and make your life easier by, first thing, don't try and chop things when they're on when they're on that round surface, first thing you want to do is get a flat surface, because then you're going to be balanced, right? Because otherwise it'll be rolling all over the place. And I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly, but don't be immediately chopping all your little pieces. First of all, you want to chop it in half so that you can get that flat surface on the board, so that you're not rolling around, so that you're steady. Because yeah, when you're using a knife, you really want to make sure that you know, as you're going down, if you do slip or something, you're not going to roll. When you have that flat surface, it makes it more blank. I've just blanked. I should have had an espresso. I was thinking of it, but then I thought it's too late, and it keeps me awake at night. Does coffee keep you awake? I love it, but it's just I can't have anything after mezzogiorno, after midday. Let's get to the cutaways of me chopping with some lovely music. Cue.
Smiling when you're smiling, and the whole world smiles with you. And when you're laughing, oh, you're laughing. Sun comes shining through. And when you're crying, oh, you bring on the rain. Stop your sign. Won't you be happy again? When you're smiling, keep on smiling, and the whole world will smile with you.
First, we're going to chop all our vegetables, keeping the garlic separate, because as I said in the ragu video, that cooks faster, so I like to add it in a little later than the other vegetables. You know, this is like the whole giant stalk of the broccoli, and you know, a lot of people throw this kind of thing out, but you know, this is one good thing that might come out of this, with the panic of at supermarkets and everything, is people perhaps might be a little bit less wasteful and a little bit more appreciative of eating everything of the vegetables or the meat, every part. Like this is what's so wonderful about la cucina povera, like the peasants' cuisine of Italy, is that you know, they really do use everything and nothing goes to waste. And that's just how it should be, isn't it? Like, we're so lucky. If you're in a position where you can be buying supplies, then don't be wasteful. You don't want a thick coating of flour, so little roll, just lightly, and then whoop, around, remove the excess flour, and we're done. On to the next 30. And they'll become wonderful and golden and crispy and delicious, and then somebody will wander into the kitchen and say, "Ooh, yummy! Can I have one?" And that's why I like to make a lot, because the polpette are also nice just on their own. The first thing that we're going to cook in our pot is the pancetta. This is very important because, as I said before, if you put the vegetables in first and then put the pancetta in, it will just sort of go very soggy and pink, and you won't actually have it crisp up and go golden. And that golden colour is not just for texture, because you might be thinking, okay, once the water's added, it's going to get soggy anyway. No, that golden colour actually creates flavour. It's the Maillard effect, which is when you brown meat or other things, but let's not go into a science lesson. Anyway, the point is, you need that golden edge. So do your pancetta first, because the vegetables have so much water in them that as the water comes out, it will make your meat soggy, and then it's impossible for it to become crispy. So that's just how I like to do it. You can do it however you want, really. So at this point, I like to add in some white wine. You guys know I don't drink, but I do like to use wine in cooking, and the combination of white wine and pancetta and chicken and garlic, oh, it's delicious. So I just added a little bit of wine. This wine actually is made by a family just across the hill. So we just went and picked some up yesterday. With the stock cubes, I like to dissolve them first in a little teacup of boiling water and then add it to the pot. Because if you throw the stock cube in and for some reason it doesn't actually dissolve, it's impossible then amongst all the vegetables and pancetta and everything to try and find it and crush it down with a spoon. So this way, so that I'm sure that it's completely dissolved, and then pour that super concentrated little liquid to the main part of my pot. You might be getting in the mood and you have music and maybe you have a glass of wine and you're like, oh, I'll just season it with some salt and pepper now. I wouldn't do that, because I like to wait until all my ingredients are in, so I can really, so that you're not going to oversalt it, because by the time you've got the pancetta and you've got the polpette, and also the stock as well, that's also got salt in it, so there's no coming back. Like if you oversalt your soup, there's not really much you can do. I mean, you can add more water, but that's just going to dilute the flavour. So I like to wait until the very end, until you season it, so that you can really taste how the flavours have come together. If you're not subscribed, then please subscribe. It really helps me. It's so hard to play this YouTube game. So you subscribing is just such a lovely thing you could do for me. And leave a comment, and I always get down there and read all of them, and I try to reply back to as many people as possible. So thank you. Also, big thank you to my patrons. We wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be creating, and you wouldn't be watching this if it weren't for them, because these kind souls are keeping this channel alive and giving me the chance to work on this full time, and that's such a blessing. I don't take it for granted. I just, every time a new patron comes through, I think, work harder, Kylie, work harder, and you do motivate me in ways you can't even imagine. So big thank you with all my heart.